Hello, and how are you doing? It's so exciting to be here again, and I am more excited about the topic for today. It's been a trending topic for a very long time, and on most open forums, you get to see people debate back and forth about it. I decided to make this video because I was reading about it some hours ago, and it's basically about relocation. Those that had relocated, that were in their new locations, were defending why relocation was okay, and those that probably had relocated before and returned back, or those that had never relocated were totally against it. It actually started, the root cause for this particular debate was how people could be spending so much to relocate. So I am here to just share my personal view. It's not might not be a popular opinion, but it's just mine. And my stand on relocation is this: basically, what do we term relocation? Because I think we are coining new meaning to it, and I'm saying this because many of us, our current, for instance, as a Nigerian, I lived in Lagos for about 7 years. I did not originate from Lagos. I wasn't born in Lagos. I more or less migrated to Lagos, where I stayed for 7 years. And before that, I had stayed in other cities and basically emanated from a village. So, as a matter of fact, when I was first leaving for school, my college, my university, I remember my mom crying, and that was basically the last time. I was probably 15 or 17 or thereabout. That was probably the last time I spent a whole month in my parents' house. And since then, I've been trying to move and live on my own. Meaning, my family missed me for living even at that period. But it wasn't termed relocation, and the question is why? Because I left my family, I left that particular location, that particular state, and I have probably never returned back there and spent a month there. So if we moving from the suburbs to the cities, from one city to another, sometimes currently I have friends and siblings that have relocated to other states that are 6 to 11 hours apart within the same Nigeria, and and that is not termed relocation. Or I don't know if that is if we put that into perspective. We are all seemingly fine with that. I don't know if it's because it's still within the context of Nigeria. That is why nobody talks about that as relocation. But once you're talking about moving outside the shores of Nigeria, there is a big question mark. I have seen people relocate from one city to the other, and they have to either move all their properties or sell off all their properties, depending on the situation that warrants them to relocate, to move. And um, people are bringing religious sentiments to this, and for bringing religious sentiments to it, begs the question to say, even in our religious books, there are lots of migration, there are lots of movement, and we are even encouraged to move. You shouldn't be stagnant. The question is whether you are moving for a permanent purpose, whether you're moving for a temporary purpose, determines the occasion that you get to find yourself. People move for whatever purpose, and when it is beneficial to them, they stay longer at that point. And when it's no longer beneficial to them, they move. Same with even Lagos. I have lots of people that left Lagos and returned back to their state. It's not like it's supposed to be a shameful thing. So there is basically no need letting people tell you what to do. You need to, when it comes to relocation, you need to be informed about your decision. You need to be prepared. You need to know what you are. You need to know your purpose. You need to know the reason you want to. If you are not able to answer these questions, you might be doing the wrong thing. It's not just about leaving your country. It's about moving from wherever you meet yourself. So you should be able to discover your purpose in life and how relevant the place you are moving to we help you with fulfilling that purpose. Else, it doesn't matter wherever you move to, even if it's within your country, you will still feel unaccomplished. I think that's just a broader term to put it. Whether you are depressed, whether you are still poor, whether you are unfulfilling, you just feel unaccomplished. And the reason why we humans are always striving is to feel that sense of accomplishment. So wherever you are seated now, wherever you are thinking of migrating to or relocating to, will it help in making you feel and accomplished? When you put these questions into perspective, that is when you start thinking of having a plan. That is when you start thinking of having a strategy. That is when you don't go around acting foolishly and taking foolish decisions. So with that being said, there are some questions that people have been asking. So I'm trying to use this opportunity to reveal all the secrets as much as I know. Once again, welcome to the channel. And if you haven't subscribed, it's just a click of a button. Please subscribe, like, share, comment. You can go ahead and buttress more on this topic. You can go ahead and refute this topic. You can go ahead and just ask more questions, and I will be glad to provide answers. Okay, so you might be already asking where I currently am, and if you haven't, it means you are new to this channel. Please just check through the videos, and you'll get to see lots of my videos on how I relocated my family, and why I relocated. I'll be going on with the very first question. What was your primary motivation for relocating, and how did you decide on your new location? So, gracefully, I was not keen on relocating. Even if I was not ready to take drastic decisions like selling off my properties, borrowing money, and just resigning from my lucrative job, and just leaving all those and moving to the unknown. See, there is one thing about relocation. It should be very, very stupid of anyone. Pardon my language, my choice of word, but like I mentioned, my disclaimer, these are just my personal opinions. I think it should be very unwise. That's the best word to use for anybody to leave the known to the unknown completely. Now, when I mean completely, relocate fine, but you can sell off your living room and properties, you can sell off your kitchen utensils, you can sell off items. But why will you sell your land? Why will you sell your house? Why will you sell? You can sell off your car. Car is not an asset, more or less. You can sell off your car, but there are some things that are valuable. Maybe you are a kinsman. You are heir to a throne. There are things you cannot just sell off. It's like selling off your birthright. You, I'm not saying your country of origin is the best place to be, but of course there is a reason you emanated from that place. So you can go to other places and explore. It depends on your purpose in life, because you will always be connected back to your source. So for me, instead of selling off everything and you are like a nobody, because once you sell off everything, and then you are going to start, what if it doesn't work? What do you fall back to? I'm not saying you should be ashamed when it does not work to return back. I'm saying you should just have a backup plan. You cannot have gotten to a stage of having a house, having a land or landed properties, having good bonds and all the rest, and you just liquidate everything and then you just move. No place is actually waiting for you. No place is built basically for you. So you need to put back that into your perspective. So for me, my primary motivation for relocating was safety. I lived in the suburbs of Lagos, not a slum. It's not Mushin, but close to Mushin. During the election period over the years, those places are always not safe, and yeah, you can't rely on the police, even though I was staying pretty close to the police station. It's not like you could rely on the police if there was theft at the middle of the night and there was constantly no power supply. So it's always ridiculous. I remember times where you more or less want to start praying for you to find power when you are getting home from work that has been stressful. The city was pretty stressful. I was staying far away from my work, not totally far away. In fact, I was close to my place of work. It's just about if there was no traffic in less than 15 to 20 minutes, I should be at the office in VI. But then on a regular day, just to go to the office, I spend maybe about an hour and a half, and to return maybe 2 hours to 3 hours, and it's killing. It's killing when you've been doing this for 7 years, and it's really killing. So these factors were draining me, and but they were not sufficient enough for me to sell off everything and just move. I had a family there, so I was open to say, okay, if I get a job offer that can relocate me, that will be fine. Even if it not just outside the country, even if it was outside the state, maybe move to Abuja, move to anywhere, because I was looking for I needed to gain my sanity, my mental well-being. I wanted to be able to sleep at night with my family being secure because most times you just hear gunshots, you just hear riffraffs shouting at the middle of the night. You hear theft in the next compound. This was happening on a regular basis. So these things were scary, and I was just open to opportunities remotely, and gracefully, I was reached out by a recruitment firm, and before you know it, everything worked out. And so it's not like I even applied. It's not like I was planning already to move out, but that was my motivation. But like I mentioned, I had reasons to be concerned already by my environment, and I was looking for something better. Security for me was one of my major problem at the time. The security, because life was not valued. Everybody was ready to just tell you rest in peace and sorry for your loss, for things that were avoidable. In fact, you driving a car and you don't greet the area boys, you don't say to them, it should be a concern to you as a car owner that lived in that area. So it wasn't a life I wanted to continue living. It was not an environment I wanted to continue raising my children. And my income was not enough for me to relocate, except I was deceiving myself. Except I wanted to spend all my income on paying house rent or feeding the landlord. So that was my motivation basically. And question two: how did you go about finding a new home or apartment in your new location? And what factors were important to you in your search? I had a family, so I knew I had to stay in something better than what I was staying. Gracefully, this place is well structured than where I was coming from. So I even had to see, I got to see pictures. I think I've shared this in my previous videos. So I even got to see pictures of apartments that matched my choice, which is different from what I know. There, you pay blindly, you pay the agent blindly, and then you have to work with the agent to those locations, or even pay the fare of the agent to those locations, and then you realize that it's an eyesore. It's not even what you expected. But in this place, you get to even see the apartment. It's top notch, and they have a standard. The architectures are always very exciting, very lovely. And so, as a matter of fact, I think I only went out is it once. Yeah, you once you see the pictures, you either like it or not, and what you see is what you get. So immediately went out once, and I liked the place. I just paid immediately. It was pretty easy. It was pretty easy. Okay, so next question: did you relocate alone with your family? Did you relocate alone, or you relocated with your family? I did relocate I relocated alone first. I went to test the waters. Like I mentioned, you don't have to be unwise about this thing. Even if you have people in diaspora that are telling you this, trust me, our heads are different. our paths in lives are different. Because it happened for A does not mean it happened to B, whether positive, whether negative. So don't, I know they might be your siblings, they might be your parents, but don't take it hook, line, and sinker that what they're telling you is what will just happen to you. Oh, there are lots of jobs, there are lots of this, there are lots of that. It's not 100% guaranteed. That's from my perspective because whatever country or state you migrate to, whether in your country, whether in diaspora, there are always poor people there. There are always jobless people there. There are always homeless people there. There are always hungry people there. So the environment is not built for you to just come and excel alone. That's what I'm trying to point out to you. So I had to come myself and check. Oh, is this place actually going to be better than where my family is? I spent a month and a half, and I went back and said, oh, yeah, I've seen the schools, I've seen. My place of work. I've seen a conducive residential environment, and there's security, there is constant power supply. Standard of living is it's okay. It's something I am very comfortable with. The the value they attach to life is top priority. There is security. When I put all this together, it was quick for me to move my family. And I must add, in moving my family, I did not give up my apartment. I did not give up my properties. I still have them, and I just decided to keep them as a backup plan. So yeah, that's it. You have to be open minded so that you don't look unwise because yeah, lives are involved in this. Your family is involved. Once things don't work out, you get depressed and become unhappy and start having regrets. I don't want to have that. Since I have a life before, I don't want to go from no life and from having a life to no life or having regrets. So don't let me not dash out my entire life. It worked for me, and I mean that it was practical for me to have this and then go with this. So people relocate for various reasons. It might be for schooling, might be as a job, you got a job offer, or you just completely take the bull by the horn and make that great move. Either ways, ensure that you're able to sustain yourself because, like I have said over and over in this video, that environment is not built with your name crested on it. The environment is not built waiting for you and say, "Oh, we're waiting for this person." So, just give yourself some benefit of doubt and say, let me have say that you have a lot of resources to live on for at least for me I would say 3 to 6 months. Even if you have a family and you have the necessary qualifications to get jobs offer. If you're not in IT, ensure you've researched the certifications, the experience, and the what must have that you need to fit into that environment. I remember the companies I worked in while I was in Nigeria, where you have expatriates come that are not qualified, you are unhappy because we know how Nigeria is. They just because maybe the companies for their relatives and for their nationals, they find their way into the company, and we have to train them, and they still become our boss. The way you are disgruntled that somebody that is not skilled is getting a job. It's the same way it will be when you also travel out. It will also seem the same way that somebody that is not skilled is given a job, and because it's not Nigeria, it might be more difficult for you to get those roles, and nobody is trying to bend the rules for you. So ensure that you are qualified enough and you are sellable in the global market, which is not far fetched. Whatever field you are in, marketing, administration, HRO, a lawyer, just if you need to get more education, if you need to get more qualification, certifications that will make you fit in the environment, do it. Don't move on hopes, don't move on beliefs, don't move on self-confidence, don't move on prayers. These things are essential, but since you still live on it, you need to give to Caesar what is Caesar and to God what is God. So, yeah, those are what happened and how I was able to move with my family. Okay, so next question is what were some of the biggest challenges you faced during the relocation process and how did you overcome them? Making the decision to relocate itself was a big challenge because you have to leave, like I said, you have to leave your known to the unknown. And sometimes you're living to an area where your language differs. That was the case for me. Yeah, that was a big challenge, but I wasn't having to borrow money, so that was not a big challenge for me. Leaving my family was also a big challenge. Leaving my environment, leaving what I love doing. I mean, there were other, apart from my work, there were other, like in my religious organization, in my social life, there were other things I was involved in that I loved doing. It was a big challenge because I knew I was going to part from them. And when you part from these things, you are either losing some opportunities, you are either not growing in those areas, and you might not, you might just might never have those opportunities again. Yeah, you need to agree to that fact that you just might not have those opportunities again. So, yeah, those were big challenges I had to come up with. And the question I would ask myself is, would I relocate if I was single? Most likely I wouldn't. I mean, maybe outside the shores of Nigeria, I just might not have. I would have been able to take bigger risk within Nigeria. Forget Nigeria, Africa is still has a lot of potential. Is the future continent of the world, and so it's there's no gainsay that. There are potentials there. It might not be visible completely right now, but if you have those foresight, you would see it. And that's why I mentioned that regardless of where you go to, always have a fallback to your home. And so I think those are just my biggest challenges. And yeah, yeah. Yes, sir. So, how did you prepare? Next question: how did you prepare for the move, and what tips would you give to someone who is planning to relocate in the near future? How did you prepare for the moves? I did a lot of research. I did a lot of thinking. I did a lot of prayer here. Yeah, that is, of course, is necessary. I did a lot of prayer, so you don't just get yeah prayers that the place should suit you. Yeah, you should still fall into God's plan for you. You should still fall into your purpose. I thought about the cost gracefully because it was a new job. I was giving. I don't know. I don't know if you heard that. I live close to the airport, so that was just an airplane going over my roof. Yeah. So I chose basically that was how I prepared for the. I also had to leave my business. But leaving the business was not like I shut it down. Was not like I let me use the word delete, but it was shut down but not deleted. So when you shut down the system, you can actually reboot it. So I have everything intact, but because it was a one-man business, I was able to shut it down. So if I had employees, then it would have continued existing beyond me. So I think that's another insight. If you can have a startup business or whatever you want to call it, an office entrepreneur, that you can have somebody running for you, trusted. I think it's a very, very good way to go. Put that in place. Let that keep generating money for you. Let that be a legacy that you are leaving that is existing. Yeah, and then you are able to transition to the next phase. It's way better that way for those that have companies that can still exist beyond them. You don't need to shut those down. If you can employ somebody, if you are currently running a one-man business, mine was short because it was a job offer. I only had 30 days or less to make the decision to move. So I really did not have ample time to transition my business to hire people or look for somebody trustworthy enough to do it because I was running it alone, so it was pretty difficult to put someone through and hand over everything, the process, the contacts. It would have been basically me losing everything completely. But so I still have my stock, I still have my warehouse and everything. So that was how I was able to prepare for my move. And When I first left for the 1.5 months, I left my family. My wife was constantly making other preparations, keeping the business well, like to shut it down properly. We were able to gracefully bring everything to a stop, and the kids' school, how we were going to move some of our valuables. Yeah, but we did not have to sell anything. We did not have to borrow. Yeah, we informed our relatives, and yeah, that was basically it. And for tips that you give someone who wants to relocate, I think I've mentioned a lot. I also mentioned that if you have a business, you don't need to sell it out. If you can have a partner, if you can have somebody that can continue it for you, if you can have your goods handed to also somebody else that has a store to sell, if you have, just make sure you are wise. Yeah, don't act out of impulse. Don't act, oh, I have the visa. No, I'm not giving Nigeria any chance. Have suffered a lot. No, just ensure that you you have a fallback plan, or you have a revenue generating source for you still from that place. Yeah, make sure your risks are well calculated. Like I mentioned, I'll say it again, the environment you're moving to was not designed with you in mind. So don't be blinded to say because every other person has a job or every other person is striving, it certainly should just work for you. This is the root cause of most depression in those places. Even if you study the same course, you probably did not graduate with the same grade, and you probably don't have the same number of years of experience, you don't have the same skill set, you don't have the same qualifications. So you are always very different from another person. It doesn't matter how much you are promised or guaranteed. Don't go to an environment where you start having to beg for alms, where you start having to live from your hand to your mouth, where you start having to think too much because things are not going as planned. It's more or less your first time of getting to this environment. So why are you so sure? Why are you so certain? So just act naive, like, oh, what if? Have lots of what if. Yeah, that's my best advice. Have lots of what if. Oh, what if I'm unable to rent this kind of accommodation? What do I do? What if I don't get a job in 2 months' time? What do I do? What if my kids are not giving free education? What do I do? What if my landlord sends me out of my apartment after paying 1 month? What do I do? Can you get a lawyer? Can you start doing? Are you ready for that lifestyle? You need to have lots of what ifs. So if at this point you've not taken anything from all I've said, take this before you relocate. Have at least 10 to 15 what ifs that you are able to find answers to. And at this point, I want to remind you that if you haven't subscribed, what are you waiting for? There are a lot of information I still have to share, so please subscribe and ensure that you continue in the part two of this video where I'll be sharing some more secrets that I haven't had opportunity to answer in the questions that I have answered.